name's Dan Dohm.
I'm Dave Graycoon.
Hey, my name is Rob Ash.
The nonlinear editing world went through a major change in July of 2011. With the release of Final Cut X,
things have not been improved.
We decided to look around and see what the other options were. About 14 years ago, I had to use Premiere for a job. I wanted to do a dissolve between these two shots. When I went to render, Premiere said it would take 64 years. Things have certainly changed in Premiere Pro since then.
Premiere's a good product that professionals ought to check out.
A huge time saver for us is being able to work natively with our 3D footage.
Now I can edit all my home movies in 4K.
Even more groundbreaking, you can open FCP's 7 projects through XML directly in Premiere. No third-party app. That's sweet.
Some people call it Final Cut 8.
Premiere Pro takes advantage of the Mercury playback engine.
Rob's going to have to explain it.
The big piece of tech behind it is the Freddie Mercury playback engine. What?
Here's how it really works.
The Mercury playback engine is a 64-bit optimized, massively multi-threaded video playback and rendering engine that fully leverages all the cores.
Much better than the Venus playback engine. That thing was a piece of
Premiere Pro works fantastically with Adobe's other products like Photoshop, After Effects.
Makes making titles very simple. You know, you can just add your word and then make it nice.
You can do stuff like...
Whoa!
Wait, that was a little bit too much there.
Adobe gave us a sneak peek at the interface of the next version of Premiere, and I'm going to show it to you right now, so get ready. All right, you ready? You ready? Well, you didn't see it? What about now? What about now?
It's actually got a timeline, an audio mixer, bins, a source and record monitor.
And my personal favorite, thumbnails that are not literally as big as a thumbnail.
Premiere has great integration with Adobe Story. It makes it very easy to find very complicated dialogue. What's up, Rob?
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dave.
Cool.
What's up?
You know.
All right, thanks.
Now, between Premiere, Encore, After Effects, it's really simple to make a DVD, you know, Blu-ray, whatever you need. Adobe's going to be offering Premiere in their upcoming Creative Cloud service.
It's going to have all the programs that I know and love, plus every other one that I have no clue what they do.
Really, what does Flash Catalyst do? No one knows.
Adobe's really helping editors learn Premiere.
I had a question about Premiere. I posted it on the interwebs, and you know, John Adobe himself gave me a phone call, and he was very helpful. He's better than Steve Abbott. That guy was a
Hey, we want to say thanks for watching this video.
We really think we found a great company in Adobe.
Premiere's pretty cool.
It's going to be pretty rocking.
We think your kids are going to like it, your dog's going to love it.
Unless you're a whiny, you should check it out.
You don't see any of my fat news.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of irreverent fun there from the guys at Conan, a little video they made just before we announced CS6 earlier this year. But I think what you can take from it is, you know, it's indicative of a changing perception and changing trends in the market towards Adobe and what we've been up to. So Adobe's a 30-year-old company, and if you ask most people, the man in the street would say, what do Adobe do? And the first thing they'd probably say was, oh, that PDF thing. I think it keeps flashing up at me and wanting to update all the time. They might have heard of Photoshop, really pushed them, maybe After Effects, but not necessarily a company that you envisage being directly involved in broadcast. But until certainly in the last couple of years, we've been making massive inroads in that space. So hi, I'm Niels. I look after the video products at Adobe in the UK. Come find me on the stand over there. We're showing some exciting stuff around our new Anywhere platform, which we announced at IBC and will be launching with a bit of luck in the first half of next year. So come and take a look at that. I'll give you an overview of what it does towards the end of the presentation, but come and say hello in person. So, yeah, as discussed, the industry is changing. Adobe, conventionally a company that you would imagine to be involved with print and design, and certainly we forged ahead in the web revolution over the last 10 or 15 years. But now we're seeing such convergence between all these different markets. Broadcast is something that we've naturally been able to apply ourselves to. So I apologize for this slide because it's an exercise in how you should not build an overcomplicated slide with too many visual cues and all the rest of it. But it does show you that we have a complete solution all the way from what we call plan to playback. But even beyond that, through what we call the optimization space. So conventionally, Production is about acquiring some assets, producing them, finishing them, and delivering them. And what happens to them after that is somebody else's problem. But as part of the bigger picture, we have companies under our umbrella like Omniture, Auditude, the Project Primetime. So we are heavily involved in the web experience management space. We can do targeted advertising, all of that kind of stuff. So really the core of what we're focusing on today, though, is in the middle of this picture. We have a solution for all parts of the workflow. So at the left-hand side of the picture, you see Illustrator, Photoshop, and Story. Now, Story is our collaborative online script editing tool. And so we didn't get into that market because, we wanted to take on Microsoft or Final Draft or Movie Magic. But this is a tool that creates raw metadata. I mean, what more valid source of metadata can you have than the script? It contains everyone who was there, everything they said, and everything they did. If all that information is available to you at all stages through the production workflow, it's a tremendously rich source of metadata to have access to. So we have a workflow where you can actually build the script in Story and start to embed that script in the header of clips as metadata so that all of your rushes become searchable while you're editing inside Premiere Pro. So more of that later. In the acquisition stage, we've got a new product called Prelude, which we built in conjunction with the BBC. So that replaces an older, slightly antiquated FireWire-based log and capture tool called On Location. And this is purely for file-based acquisition of rushes. So that was new in CS6. The core of the piece in the production space, Premiere, After Effects, Audition, SpeedGrade, that's where we really live. And of course, you can see as well, we acquired Automatic Duck late last year. So in terms of metadata interchange, AAF, OMF, import and export, we're always trying to be as good citizens as we can, make sure we have the best possible interop between other platforms and other applications, and having those guys in the family now as well helps with that too. This icon you're seeing here, with like the three piano hammers leaning against each other, I don't really know how else to describe it, is the Anywhere platform. So more of that later, but that's really about WAN-based collaborative editing, so we'll get there in a minute. Through distribution, what you're seeing is Encore, which is our Blu-ray and DVD authoring tool. Also authors web DVDs, which is one of the most underutilized features I've ever seen in our software. But essentially, imagine you have a website with the full functionality of a Blu-ray, but just Java-based. Full MP4 quality video, all clickable links, completely navigatable, but it's just built inside a complete self-contained web folder with an index HTML and all the Flash assets. Upload it, off you go. We can generate that out of Encore as well. The application you see underneath with the little scree of pebbles rolling down is the Adobe Media Encoder, which again will spit out any flavor of video you like, whether it's sending to a transmission server, whether you're delivering to platform devices, whether you are going to Blu-ray or DVD, or whether it's going to YouTube or Vimeo, whatever you need. We can make all of those formats. We're completely format and codec agnostic. So that's kind of the big picture of where Adobe is involved. So as you can see, we have a solution or an offering at least in every imaginable stage of production, content provision, and analytics parts of the workflow. We're also growing 20% a year, which we're quite pleased with. That's, I think, in the current climate, that's a formidable statistic. We put a lot of that down to some of these areas of leadership. Really, probably 2.5, 3 years ago, when we launched CS5, there was a renewed priority around the video tools for Adobe. We recognized that this was the area in which we can probably grow the most because, candidly, if you think back to then, I think there probably was something of a stigma around particularly our Premiere tool in terms of adoption and some issues around reliability and stability and the legacy of that product. But we're at a stage now where we've moved right past that, and we've really got one of the most powerful dual platform editors in the market. And that's down to what you heard them talking about in the video, the Mercury playback engine. And this is our multi-threaded 64-bit tool that allows you to play back any codec. So really an experience of editing inside Premiere, After Effects, and using that platform as your non-linear editor. We care about two things. We care about what you shot. We care about what you need to deliver. Everything else in the middle should be real-time with no proxies or no intermediate codecs unless you particularly want to go down that route. So very, very high performance and a timeline that's completely open to all known file-based codecs and, of course, growing on a regular basis. Some manufacturers actually build plugins for cameras themselves, and they're, or they at least they get the camera manufacturers to build the plugins, and then they're not that optimized. They may be 32-bit, they may be single-threaded. We have a dedicated team called Media Core, which is a part of the software that sits under After Effects and Premiere, and we have guys that will optimize any codec for use with those applications, so you always get every core in your system being maxed out, all the RAM, all of the resources on the graphics card being used. Metadata support is key as well, as I mentioned. Story is a big part of that, but any kind of static metadata that gets created in the field by your camera operator, or any metadata you enter yourself as clip-based information or as comments, will be embedded in the clip and will be preserved right through the workflow. So script-based metadata that you embed at the outset persists right through and can become subtitle metadata by the end of a workflow. It's always there all the way along. Multi-screen distribution, and of course, as I mentioned, integration. So not least the fact that all of our applications talk very nicely to each other using the dynamic link function, but also the fact that we have very good interop via XML, AAF, OMF. Even Audition, I think, will still open OMF 1s from old audio file systems, so we can sit quite nicely in the middle of any kind of workflow. So this is a little snapshot of some of the people that we've been talking to and working with during that time. So some of these are quite interesting because they were originally poster children for the solutions provided by other manufacturers, and they've kind of wholeheartedly come on board with us, and kind of voted with their confidence. And particularly, for example, Bloomberg, they had a smattering of different edit solutions available. 2 or 3 different vendors were involved. They've actually unified their desktop editing experience to Premiere Pro right across the organization. Same is true of BBC, so we're part of DMI, so the Premiere editing tool is something that's part of the standard desktop rollout across the BBC now. Viasat, equally. The Telegraph, you maybe not straight away think of them as somebody who provide a huge amount of video content, but equally, as I say, everything converging, multi-platform, quite a lot of video comes out of there as well. ITV is a key one because they were our first major adopter of Story Plus for enterprise. So they've just recently gone live, and now Coronation Street and Emmerdale, all of the script-based creation and the collaborative workflows are now based around our Story tool. So they've actually switched completely over to a hosted solution for script creation, and they're using Story. So that's quite a coup for us. So as I mentioned, BBC, we're part of the DMI project there, and a lot of the work that we did around Prelude was as a result of collaboration and consultation with the BBC. So this was a tool we built with them, so we solicited their feedback and worked closely on the pilot with them over some time, and then that's now a product that's found its way into the main body of software that's released. Also, we work closely with them to integrate their media asset management system into the interface. So to give you an example of how that looks, there's a screenshot. What you're seeing there is the interface for Premiere Pro. Now, because there is a unified look to all of our Creative Suite applications, whether it's Photoshop, Flash, After Effects, Premiere, consists of a number of dockable, resizable panels. And you can orient them however you want across the screen. You can save them as workspaces, so you can save preset setups for the way that the screen is laid out. These panels themselves are actually built and coded in the Flash and Flex language platforms. So we have a very open development kit so that manufacturers can get in there and can actually build their own panels. What this means, keep you waiting, what this means is that from a user experience perspective, the user isn't going to necessarily know that an integrated system is not part of that application. So there's no kind of alt-tab, drag-drop between separate apps. Based on user credentials and logins and the way that the screen is preset to come up, you're going to be able to have direct access into that media asset management system inside the UI. And our calls allow that to be completely bidirectional. So this gives the user the opportunity to completely search the entire archive of clips that are available and retrieve them. It also gives administrators the ability to constrain users So as part of what we call our reduced UI project, we can actually lock down the interface to prevent people bringing in uncleared footage, stuff they've just taken off YouTube and stream recorded, or stuff they've just brought in on a USB stick. We can actually preclude them from bringing that footage in and dragging that into the timeline, and enforce that any assets they use have to be cleared and come in directly from the man. So that's an example of how we work with the BBC to integrate their Fabric MAM inside Premiere. So CNN, we did some similar work with them. They were also pivotal in consulting on some of our new CS applications. They needed an IPv proxy workflow. So we worked closely between CNN and IPv. And IPv actually built a panel for us as well. So that looks a bit like that. So there you go, the IPv curator system at work, but with access to their tools and interface grafted into the body of the Premiere application itself. So a completely seamless experience of search, retrieval of assets, and bidirectional, import and sync. Got a good few more of these. We've been working with a lot of people. So Hearst, again, they were a big ENPS house. So working with them, we now have the ENPS tool directly into the Premiere interface as well. And there it is at work. Levels beyond. Typically, we would expect one of our partner vendors to take between 6 weeks and 6 months to churn out a panel. These guys hold the record for doing one in 6 hours. So they are a heavily Flash-based house, and they did have all the necessary skills and lots of it ready to go. But that was quite formidable. So the Levels Beyond MAM system there at work inside Premiere. Prime Stream, VizRT. So using standard MOS calls, again, you can call out your OAG items and elements can actually be commanded from inside Premiere. So that full integration with the VizRT system at work then inside Premiere. Vidispine, Tools on Air, Human Circuit, S4M, Sienna as well. So we've just sold a lot of seats into AP, Associated Press. They've standardized on use of Premiere Pro across the enterprise as well. And there we are with the Sienna gallery system at work. DiaQuest, Octopus, both Human Circuit and the NPS. And so here again is a snapshot of some of our kind of ecosystem of the different partners that we work with. Because we recognize we can never be a complete solution, so we're part of a picture, and these are the people that we work quite closely with to bring an integrated solution. In the film world as well, there's been a lot happening for us in the last 2 or 3 years. So David Fincher is a huge advocate of our software. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo feature was all shot red 4K and completely posted inside Premiere Pro and After Effects. We had a very positive experience with that. The Social Network, equally the same. Shane Hurlbutt is one of these kind of renegade digital maverick types who does a lot of work with the Canon 5D. So he shot Act of Valor exclusively on 5Ds, and that's a fantastic looking piece of work. Again, he's a big advocate of our software. So if you Google him, unfortunately, the first thing you'll probably find is that clip from the set of Terminator Salvation where Christian Bale tore him a new one in that kind of tirade of abuse that he got. That was him, unfortunately, on the receiving end of that, which is greatly regrettable because he's otherwise a very talented, very visionary director of photography. So take a look at some of his work after you've finished with the cheap titillation of that, that particular clip. So yeah, he works on Act of Valor, and he works on a lot of shorts. And he basically uses 5Ds as disposable media. As long as he can retrieve the SD card from the camera at the end of the shoot, if it's been shot holes in, blown up, burnt, or exploded, it's disposable. As long as he can retrieve the lens as well, because he tends to be strapping £250,000 glass to 5D cameras. So Gareth Edwards, working on the Monsters piece as well. He's supposed to be directing the new Godzilla movie, although that one seems to be caught in development hell at the moment. And one of the more interesting pieces that we've helped out with in recent times is recently released biopic of Graham Chapman. So about a year or two before he died, he recorded his autobiography in a studio, narrating the voices of all the other Pythons himself. So recently this tape was rediscovered, and so they got the other Pythons involved and they got them to revoice their own voice parts, and they curtailed it greatly. I think there was 18 hours of footage or something, so they turned it into about 90 minutes of usable stuff. And then a bloke called Justin Wayers at Made Visual Studios built an animated feature around it. And so That was exclusively put together in After Effects and Premiere, and it features 16 different animation styles, all shot in, or all composited in stereoscopic 3D. So everything from standard 2D, 3D, oil on glass, stop motion, you name it, every different style is in there. And each of the scenes is kind of stylistically held together by a vision of Graham Chapman with a pipe. Whether he's a baby or a grown man, he's there with his pipe. So that's the kind of thread that runs visually through it. So again, they were able to put that together using dynamic link, gluing together After Effects and Premiere. It was a Z820 with 16 cores, 96 gigs of RAM, 4 terabytes of solid-state RAID storage, a Quadro 6000, a Maximus card, and I think just about every possible other piece of kit you can throw into a workstation. And I still think it took about a week to render, but it's quite a stunning piece of work, so well worth seeing if you get the opportunity. So, moving forward a little bit and getting a glimpse of the future for us over the coming 6 to 12 months. Anywhere really is kind of the worst kept secret in showbiz for us at the moment. It's something that we've been working on developing actively now for over 18 months. It entered the public domain at IBC, and we actually did a kind of soft announce of it. But it's basically, to sum it up very quickly, it's the special sauce that there is in the Mercury playback engine for those of you who have or haven't used Premiere Pro. This level of optimization that we have that gives you this high level of performance in terms of playing back sophisticated codec media at high resolution. It's called Mercury. So we found a way to harness that, and rather than put that in the editor, we're putting it at the back end. So we're basically streaming a dynamic playback stream of this picture to your desktop. Best in show at IBC, it won, so we were pleased with that. And these are kind of some of the pilots that we've got underway at the moment. So these are some of the people getting their fingers wet, or feet wet, fingers dirty. So it's going to be launched actively, as I say, in the first part of next year. So to sum it up, again, don't usually like to read verbatim what's on the slide, but this has to kind of sum it up quite well. It's a modern, collaborative workflow platform that empowers the users of Adobe Professional Video solutions such as Premiere, After Effects, and Prelude to work together using centralized media assets. There's nothing new at any point here, across virtually any network. That's the important part. WAN, LAN, Wi-Fi, you name it. The intention is that you will be able to get a full resolution, proxy-free experience across any network. So again, that allows you to bring virtual teams of talents together using open systems, networks, and processes. It will work across any old office LAN, even a 100 megabit non-switched network. So collaborate, work anywhere, and use creative tools. Shared view of content, you can collaborate, and you end up getting involved in a production. So the production works as a sandbox in the server. So every user has their own version of the project until such time as you go to check in the changes, and then we get involved in doing conflict resolution for you if somebody else was working on the same project. You can also ingest media as well, so it will actually allow you to do a hybrid of a web-based stream and local-based media. We can actually blend the two together in the client over any network, commodity type, and there are no proxies created at any point. It's a live dynamic stream created by the server that is sized to fit according to what available bandwidth you have. That's the key. That's what makes it kind of unique in this space. Works with all our production premium tools, and it's the standard build of those applications. So it's a full-fat version of Premiere with all of the same functionality that a user would have available to them if they were just using it as a standalone editing tool. It's exactly the same build. Just happens to have all of that anywhere functionality built into it if you have a server that you can connect to. Same software works online and offline. So the difference that you see here between other media asset management and shared storage system is the fact that my clients don't have a big fiber or 10 gig Ethernet connection to the central storage because they don't need it. In the usual paradigm where you've got multiple simultaneous NLEs, you require high performance workstations, lots of RAM, big graphics cards, fast processors, multi-cores, all so that they can pull in multiple simultaneous streams of video over a fast, expensive network and build an overlay for you for the editor to see locally in a score-to-screen window. What if that stream was built at the back end and the user experience was identical in terms of look and feel and responsiveness of the interface? They literally couldn't tell that they weren't editing with footage that was on local or shared storage. They were just looking at a representation of that video as a compressed stream coming from the back end. That would save you on the outlay of all of the expensive workstations and all of the expensive infrastructure. All you would then need is what we have here, the collaboration hub and the Mercury streaming blades attached to shared storage. So that's kind of where Anywhere sets itself apart from other solutions in the marketplace. So as I say, easy collaboration on shared projects, standard hardware, and access to the best creative software, so you can build teams based on talent, not location. This should facilitate the use of freelance pools worldwide, ultimately. You know, once we get to later phases of the project, the intention very much is for this to work over WAN, and with the standard build of tools that is available to you in the Production Premium Suite, or through our Creative Cloud subscription model. And again, the applications for this are fairly limitless. Obviously, the most conventional ones will be post, broadcast, and education, but really anyone creating video content, which these days is most people, all have an ideal use case for Anywhere. I think I seem to have got that slide twice, but some of the pilots are ongoing. So Anywhere, collaboration without boundaries. So I think that's probably quite enough wittering out of me. Thanks very much for listening if you have been. As I say, I'll hang around for a little while for questions, or if not, do come and find me over at the Adobe stand. Thanks very much. Cheers.